Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the most important touristic sites in Qena and Sohag. We're going to be talking about the monuments in this area, about their history, and of course, the most significant Abydos and Dandera temples in this area. And on this issue, we're glad to be joined by Mr. Samir Abbass, researcher and Egyptologist. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Glad to be with you.
Good morning, Mr. Samir. Let's talk about the most popular or ancient monuments in this particular part of Egypt. This particular part of Egypt is full of valuable monuments and has been popular for years, even as a tourist destination. If you'd like first to shed the light as a background for this part of Egypt.
So that's how I would like to start shedding the knowledge. I would like to start by telling people about how important this area is. This area is part of South Egypt, and South Egypt in ancient Egypt had a great role. And it is quite interesting to know that the civilization, the most important civilized communities in prehistory Egypt before 5000 BC, that was started in the south. More specified Napta Playa, that's where the Stonehenge is found. After that, the strongest states in ancient Egypt is from the south. And it does make sense. During the historical period, the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, their titles, the kings of the south and the north. In ancient Egyptian art, in ancient Egyptian art is always the south comes before the north. Abydos is one of the most important sites in the south. And that's in Sohag, by the way. More specified, the southern part of Sohag. Abydos for the ancient Egyptian, it was like Mecca for the Muslims and Jerusalem for the Christian today. Abydos is the gate to the afterlife. And that's why they made sure that they will pilgrim to Abydos at least once in their lifetime. And if they couldn't, so they will leave a will to take for their bodies to be taken in a boat before the burials, the mummy, to Abydos. So Abydos is believed to be the gate to the underworld, and that's where Osiris is being buried. Going back to our introduction about the importance of the south, so we talked that has some of the most important culture and civilization centers from the prehistory. And the kings, there is very famous kings came from the south, especially the kings which had a great role in the history, shaping the history of ancient Egypt. Narmer, he's from the south. Narmer, he's the founder of Egypt. He's the king who challenged the states of the north and the south and unified them together. Without Narmer, Egypt will not be the same as it is today. And when the old kingdom collapsed, there was another king from the south, another family, Mentuhotep, known as Mentuhotep Nebhebet Ra. He was the founder of the Middle Kingdom. And when the Hyksos invaded Egypt, there was a family from the south. There was Seknen Ra and his son Camus, and then his son, the other son, which is the famous Ahmos. They led the Egyptian army for the liberation, and they unified Egypt north and south together. So it's quite interesting when you know that
we
the ancient
have some
Egyptians,
interesting also photos here, pictures for you.
So in the picture on the left-hand side is the Osiris, or the legendary tomb of Osiris. Osiris, he was the most important gods one of the most important gods in ancient Egypt, and without him nobody can go to the afterlife. Think about how important this god is. And his legendary tomb lies in Abydos in Sohag, by the way. Unfortunately, you see the water there is completely flooded. That needs a big project to pump the water out, so they can clean it and being open for people to visit. And
right.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry for interruption. Go ahead.
I just wanted to know, in addition to the most beautiful temples of Dandera and Abydos, what other monuments are in this area? Because we don't know a lot about monuments in Qena and Sohag.
So in Abydos has only the temple of Osiris. It has also Abydos temple built in the New Kingdom, and that's one of the most beautiful temples, especially the art. The art comes to its most beauty in this temple. It has one of the most important, valuable resources of Egyptian history. We call the king list. An ancient Egyptian historian left a wall decorated with the names of the ancient Egyptian kings on the wall. So Abydos itself still have lots of other tombs of kings from prehistory, from the early dynastic period. Zoser, the founder of the pyramid, the step pyramid, he has a tomb there in Abydos as well. So apart from Abydos, and we have Al-Hawawish. Al-Hawawish is hardly being mentioned. Al-Hawawish is an area, so this picture might come from Abydos, And there is another illustration which is approach for the rock-cut tombs known as al-Hawawish, and an area known as Akhmim. And al-Hawawish because Akhmim, and because of that was one of the states in Sohag, because it was so rich.
It's also very well known for carpets. They do carpets over there. Or
fabrics in general.
Fabrics.
Yeah,
right.
fabrics. And because it was a rich state, it was the capital of the state number 9 in ancient Egypt. There was rich people there, and that was reflected on the tombs and tomb decorations. I wish we can get one of these pictures, which is I have for Hawawish tomb. These are rock-cut tomb, which is like the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, not for kings, for individuals, but very richly decorated, like Bani Hassan, more specified, like Bani Hassan from the Old Kingdom and the first intermediate period and on.
Mr. Samir, how different are these parts or these sites in Upper Egypt from the other the rest of Egypt? I mean, why is it so attractive for tourists to come over and choose them as the first touristic destination?
You know, so Upper Egypt has an advantage. There is hardly any rain there, and that's
very
why
dry weather.
Dry weather that's helping preserving monuments. Another advantage is the most powerful ancient Egyptian capital in the New Kingdom, which is the city of Luxor. It was there in the south, and they left magnificent tombs and buildings there. The third reason is Egypt invaded a lot, and most of the invaders who invaded Egypt after the collapse of the ancient Egyptian civilization, their main focus was on the north. They control the south, but they haven't lived in the south. The south is tough, is hot, and because of that, there is many of the monuments has been survived in the south as well.
Right. Would you please tell us more about the historical significance of both cities? I mean, both governorates, Qena and Sohag.
So, Qena, of course, we are using the modern definitions today, and the border lines between these cities is changing from a time, even in our modern time, changing. But if we consider Luxor in the old time, it used to be part of Qena. So that will change the subject completely when we consider Qena, when we consider Luxor as part of Qena. But now it is separated.
So they were one governorate, Luxor and Qena?
In the old days, not today. You know. So, but today, you know, Qena, for example, has one of the most beautiful temple, which is Dandera temple. So it was not only important for the ancient Egyptians, by the way. There is in Qena and Sohag, there is an ancient Egyptian cities, and there is temples built by Greeks or built during the Greek period of time. So they built new communities, and they have Greeks and Romans settled there in the southern part. Mentioning the temple of Dandera, which is I have another, and I put another picture for that. The temple dedicated for Hathor, the goddess of beauty, the goddess of motherhood, and it is very well preserved. Some of the most beautiful and some of the most well-preserved ceiling decorations in Dandera, which has helped us a lot to understand about the ancient Egyptian zodiac and how they looked at the stars and how they used the stars as a calendar back in that time.
How important is for Egypt or the Egyptian government to be able to promote and develop with that particular part in Egypt? Of course, we all know that the President Sisi is inaugurating huge projects in Qena and Sohag, and is currently visiting this part of Egypt right now. But also it's full of monuments. It's full of a great part of history of Egypt. Tourism there is a #1 venue for Egyptians. At least for the people who are residents there, their livelihood. Talk to us about the importance of developing.
So that's a very crucial point, Dina, to talk about. You know, myself, my family roots come from the south, from a small village known as Komer in Esna, and I still go and visit them there. They are very, very poor communities there. Unfortunately, very few people getting benefit from the tourism as a business, and this part is not being taken care maybe in the modern history of Egypt as it should be. It is not only because of the monuments, it's because of the people there. And there is, I don't like the idea that tourism to be the main source of income, because tourism is a seasonal, and tourism is very much affected with the political situation. So I think I think that the good education, training, building factories, introducing new farms, and giving a better life for the people of the south that will make it more stable, which is, I wish that will happen soon.
Right, of course, the development of Upper Egypt is a very important file, and the Egyptian leadership is giving great attention to this specific point. Now, Mr. Samir Abbass, researcher and Egyptologist, many thanks for your insight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, and we're going to go to a short break. We'll come back to you, so stay with us.